I'm going to show you the easiest and possibly the best way to get Quantanium in Star Citizen, and this requires no mining at all. Now to do this, you'll need a decent ship like the Corsair or Constellation ships at least. Although there's an interesting method I found that allows you to use weaker ships, which I'll show you later in the video. So to do this, you're gonna have to do bounties. And you'll have to level your rep to get HRT bounties, which won't take long at all. The best place to level your rep would be around Crusader. The reason to grind up to HRT bounties is because that's when they start spawning cargo ships, like Cutlasses and Freelancers. And these ships more often than not have cargo in them, and when they do, they're guaranteed to contain Quantanium. But if you want guaranteed Quantanium in every bounty, you gotta grind up to at least VHRT bounties. So first, before you head out, you're gonna need the max lift tractor beam, because the multi-tool sucks now. And then it's time to head out and do some bounties. In my first VHRT bounty, there were 2 Starfarers and a Reclaimer. Now there are some ships that, although can hold cargo, usually never spawn with any of it, the Reclaimer being one of them. Other cargo ships that I've never seen have cargo in them in bounties include the 600i, the Caterpillar, which is very disappointing, and the Valkyrie. So after disabling all 3 ships, I proceed to scan the Starfarers. The first one was empty, unfortunately. The second one though had a whopping 8 SUs of Quantanium. Now that right there is 200k. It also had 17 SUs of Altrucia Toxin, which is about 96k. So that bounty right there was worth almost 300k in cargo if you ignore the rest. The second VHRT bounty consisted of a 600i, a Starlifter, and a Phoenix. Unfortunately, the Starlifter was piloted by a bunch of pussies and fled before I could engage them, so I was left to fight only the Phoenix and 600i, but at least I got a box of Quantanium out of it. The third bounty had a Caterpillar, Starfarer, and Phoenix. Unfortunately, I destroyed the Phoenix and all its cargo poured out, which I couldn't retrieve because I was still fighting. But the Starfarer had 5 SUs of Quantanium, which I could have gotten at least 6, but I'll take it. And I took the Altrucia Toxin as well. The fourth bounty, Corsair, Starlifter, and 600i. Only the Corsair had anything, which was 1 SU of Quantanium. And the fifth was a complete loss. I destroyed the only ship that had any cargo, and most of the cargo blew up with it. So after 4 bounties, although it was technically 5, I came away with 15 SUs of Quantanium and 22 SUs of Altrucia Toxin, which together roughly totaled about 500k worth of cargo. It could have been more than 500k if I was more careful, or if things happened a bit differently. But it's Star Citizen and shit happens. Now fighting bounties to loot them afterwards is way harder than just fighting them, because you have to kill all the ships. One strategy would be to disable the most combat capable ships first, like the Corsair or Constellation ships, or ships that don't have cargo bays, like the Vanguard, Hurricane, or Scorpius, just to name a few. But even so, you always run the risk of losing the fight, and if you didn't deposit your cargo from previous bounties, losing all your cargo as well. Unfortunately, that has happened to me a couple times and it never gets better, and I always think, I should have banked my loot before accepting that bounty. When that happens, I recommend you leave your seat immediately and then kill yourself. That way, the AI will hopefully stop firing on your ship, preventing it from being completely destroyed, so you can fly back and retrieve your loot from the flaming husk of your ship, something I learned the hard way. But what if you can't afford a Corsair or a Constellation ship? Well, you can always rent them. The Corsair can be rented from Hurston, and the Andromeda can be rented from major cities. I do have an interesting strat. I don't know how viable it is though, but it will increase your odds of success. The catch is you can only do this in space, and it takes more time. So you can only do this around Crusader or Hurston, although Crusader is much better for this, and that is what I like to call the hoverbike strat. But what makes hoverbikes so interesting? Well, for one, the AI can't detect hoverbikes, so you can fly up to an enemy ship, start shooting at it, and the AI won't react at all. For this strat, a Dragonfly or Nox works fine, because you can swap the weapons. The Dragonfly is the more affordable of the two, but it is bigger. I opted for the Nox. You can technically do it with the Pulse as well if you brute force it, but it'll take a while. When I did this, my loadout included 1 laser repeater and a weapon not a lot of people use, which is the Sledge 1 mass driver. Now the reason I use the mass driver is because even though it's too small to be used for combat, it's really good for breaking open doors. Except when the ship hasn't turned on its shields. In that case, I opt for the laser repeater. The whole point of this strat is to board ships, which gives two benefits. Once you board a ship, all the enemy AI will start attacking that ship, which is very useful if you board a bounty. And secondly, you can run straight to the cockpit and kill the pilot, unless you're boarding a 600i. I haven't found a way to get to the cockpit from the cargo bay, and the elevators don't work. In that scenario, I had to board it with my Nox and wait for the AI to destroy the ship, which didn't happen cause my Nox blew up cause I didn't turn off the engines. Gotta remember to do that. The problem with this strat is that it's very fucking hard to board ships, and that's cause they're always moving, but occasionally they'll stop long enough for you to get in. Typically when I first approach them, they'll stop long enough for me to get some shots in. After that, it's all a matter of patience. I think exiting and entering the hoverbike might help with that, but I'm not sure. Now this strat varies from patch to patch. In 3.23, these ships didn't move at all, making this strat more viable. Not so much in 3.24. The beauty of this is once I disable the bounty, the rest of the ships stop moving. Although if they remain mobile, shooting at them will cause them to stop. And once you leave the ship, it becomes invincible to enemy fire, even in soft death, so you don't have to worry about losing cargo. From there, it's easy pickings. I have to destroy the cockpit only ships outright because I can't board them. Then I just board the remaining ships, kill all the pilots, and any crew members I can access, ride my hoverbike back to my ship, and fly my ship to the now pilotless ships to loot them. So it's something you can do if you don't have a good ship, but I wouldn't go so far as to recommend this strategy. After a long day's work of fighting and robbing these degenerates, it's time to reap the rewards and sell off your bounty of loot. And because they're taken from AI ships, the game will view them as legitimate cargo, so you can sell your Quantanium to any major city across Stan. Just load them into the freight elevator and send them to the warehouse where they can be sold at your local TDD. For the slightly less legal cargo, you can sell them at salvage yards, or in the case of Altrusia Toxin, Grimhex for a slightly reduced profit, or in the case for Slam, Crew L5 for a slightly higher profit. And that is, I believe, the best way to acquire Quantanium. No mining required, although the loot used to be better. If I remember correctly, a couple patches ago, these ships would have been full of hard drugs and illegal goods like maize, weevil eggs, slam, and a bunch of other stuff. But understandably, it was nerfed, probably because it was too lucrative. If you made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching, I really appreciate it. If you found this video helpful, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell. There's a new event currently happening in Star Citizen, Blockade Runner, and I haven't tried it out yet. I want to try out my hoverbike strat to see if it works for that event. However, it's a server-wide event, and this is a solo strat, so I might have to modify it. Unfortunately, I don't think I can make a video about Blockade Runner, because if some of you guys didn't know already, the Starfield Shattered Space expansion is coming out next week, and I want to get ready for that. And Blockade Runner only lasts until September 30th, same date as Shattered Space's release, so hopefully CIG does it again in the near future. Perhaps modify a bit, cause I hear the payouts for the event isn't that good. But Blockade Runner isn't the only newest thing that came with Alpha 3.24. They've also released a brand new cargo hauling profession in this update, and if you want to know what it's about, and if it's worth doing, then I highly recommend you watch this video right here.